Welcome, everyone. My name is Blake, and I will be your moderator. I'm excited to welcome Senior Strategic Director Eric Palmer for an in-depth look at how to improve your cash flow, eliminate manual processes, and speed up patient payments. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to go over some housekeeping. If you have a question, please type it in the box labeled "Have a Question" on the right side of your screen. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. Well, welcome and thank you for being with us today. I will pass it over to you now.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today to run through taking charge of revenue cycle management. I'm Eric Palmer, Strategic Director here at Worldpay, and wanted to dive into just a few items here in just a moment. As we discussed with the housekeeping items right there, it is being recorded, so anyone who has registered for the event, they will receive a link to view when it's on demand. Q&A, if you have it at any time point, please pop it into the widget, and then we'll do our best either like along the way of the presentation to answer those, or at the end, we definitely do have an allotted time to address your questions and answers. And then for some reason, if you're having technical issues, also Q&A, put that in the widget, and we'll get you that needed assistance. All right, revenue cycle management. I thought it'd be good just to take a high-level view at it from the lens of pre-care and post-care. So from a patient experience, whether they're scheduling the visit, when they come to the practice to get their care, maybe after the care, they get the estimation of their bill, moving over to sending that to the insurance company for the claim submission to see what's owed for the patient, the post-adjudication for the patient to ultimately see like what that final balance is, and then for that patient to make their payment for their bill. Those are all touch points that, as you know, are an integral part of revenue cycle management. Just a question to the group, like, if you know your average days to collect payments due, are you north of 30 days? Are you below 30 days? If so, that's typically about the average it takes to collect payments from your customers for that post-adjudicated balance portion. And studies show that anytime the patient leaves your office without making that payment, collection process drops 20% for collecting that amount owed if they didn't put maybe that card on file or if you gather that data. I actually had that happen to me a few weeks ago when I went to the dentist. Went to the dentist, everything was great, no cavities, thank you very much, which was great, clean bill of health. But then when I came to have the post visit with the front office admin, I kind of was reaching for my wallet to expect to at least pay something. And she mentioned that I'm going to send your information to the insurance company. I'll do my best to try to get it lowered for you, and then we'll send you a bill in the mail. I would have been happy to put my card on file, make any type of payment, just knowing that I'm sure I owed some type of payment. So those touch points you get with your clients that come in are very valuable. So anytime you can try to create those more consistent touch points with your patients, the better. So whether it's at the time of check-in or the time of checkout, trying to get that information on file for the credit card to help lower your days of collection for accounts receivable and to improve this process are crucial. Becoming a card on file influencer. We're all customers, so whenever you go and say rent a car or go to the hotel, like you know you need to bring your card out and to give that to them because they collect that up front. Trying to stand that up as a best practice for your practice today to ensure that those touch points, you're getting that information to ultimately help drive down the number of days to collection is a best in class standpoint from running your clinic. And then last touch point, if you have maybe those customers that have a larger bill owed, or they have braces, or if they owed maybe on a crown, something like a large ticket item, setting up those payment plans, and that automatically bills the client for that card on file are great practices to once again help lower your AR for your practice. And of course, either getting the card on file or setting up those plans that patient consent is needed. So let's just touch on a few ways then to improve your revenue cycle management. For one, helping adopt digital payment technology is going to speed up your revenue cycle. So also, it's going to save you time. So when you digitize your billing process, and when you're no longer like manually sending out mail, it's going to help you save time on what you're focusing on. So you're no longer focused a lot on the billing portion, to where if you can get a few hours back in the day and then the week and then the month, overall you can pivot that into improving the patient experience. So studies show that practices that adopt digital technology report significant benefits right there, helping reduce your accounts receivable by 27% as one use case for practices that have adopted digital technology to help run their practice. Conserving resources. So we touched on mailing out the bill to the clients. Trying to pivot to a digital strategy is going to help you conserve and save on those resources of maybe printing and mailing out a little bit less, because now you have a portion of your customer base where you have them set up on recurring payments. You have them set up to where you can send them out a text to pay. So it's going to help your practice run a little bit more efficiently. So those that are set up on digital technology are improving their collections rate by 64%. And then they're spending less money on billing by almost half, by 55%. And lastly, convenience. So we're all customers shopping at various places and having personal services. So we might have better kind of payment experiences at others, and I see that trickling down to the healthcare space and dentists today. So we just don't expect those experiences across the board, but we definitely appreciate them. So whenever you can offer varied payment experiences, it's just going to help your overall client experience and keep them happier and keep them around longer, which it's all about. So for those in this study saw an 18% satisfaction increase when they implemented digital payments. So we've talked a lot about like digitizing your payments experience and what that looks like. We offer a solution at Worldpay called OmniFlex, meaning that it offers all things to assist with that range of payment experiences. So if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, that almost kind of like sun grid there, offering everything from that upfront experience with the customer in person for that card present technology for contactless payments, for the card not present technology, whether you're now offering e-invoice technology to push out those invoices, text to pay, possibly even QR pay, which we'll touch on here in a little bit in a moment. And I'm sure we're all used to now by using it in various restaurants when you no longer get a physical menu. Back end, so reporting. So I'll be able to show you and help you with your reconciliation. So whether it's the same day and you're making sense to balance the books at the end of the day, or pop it in next day to see which accounts settled the transactions to make sure your books are balanced and making sense. That's what we're talking about with the OmniFlex offering. And we'll get into it here in just a moment, a little bit deeper of how it can help improve your digital payments experience. Security. It might not be at the forefront of what you think about with payments. It definitely always is for us with all of our technology that we offer. So a few of those use cases there are on the right-hand side. Like, what is OmniFlex? As we mentioned, it's an all-encompassing online point of sale solution. It's a web-based application, so you're just logging into it via URL. It does have a payment device connected to it as well, which will show what that is here in a moment. But that hosted solution helps reduce your PCI security standards. Also, for the users that interface with OmniFlex, it has a hierarchy to it, and it's set up in a secure, authenticated fashion to help keep you safe for anyone that might be trying to compromise that. So at the owner level, there's sub-users as well. So obviously the owner of the clinic would be setting this up, setting up sub-users with certain responsibilities and access to help use the tool to run the practice. And then the two last touch points around using the device and then card on file transactions is that at the device level, you either use the contactless payment, or you dip the card, or last case you can swipe. That's all card information that's done at the device that then flows through to the hosted solution. And so that data is considered to be in flight. And so when that data is in flight, it needs to be encrypted. So that way, if your system was compromised at all with a hack, someone trying to get into it to take that card data, past breaches like your Home Depot and your Target, that's where it was compromised at the device level to where it wasn't fully encrypted when it flew over to the point of sale solution. So having that fully encrypted data at the point of sale is a crucial piece, which OmniFlex offers, and having your data that's at rest. So all of your card on file data that's securely tokenized. So if someone were to, like I said, compromise the system and try to hack into it, that 16-digit card numbers are all tokenized. So for some reason, if they were to take it, they aren't taking the data. It's tokenized to help protect that data when it's at rest. So thinking about OmniFlex and then your experience as a practice is kind of like twofold. Your front office, the client experience when you're in person, and then the back office when you have maybe the card on file, the reporting. So breaking up into twofold there. Front office, so helping digitize that use case for your front office. Hopefully today you have a device that helps enable contactless payments. So as you see there, whether it's Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, they can now use their phone to make payment on your device. One of the devices shown there, the Lane 3000, is enabled to have that functionality. Yes, we can obviously accept all the 4 major card brands. And as we touched on in the previous slide, it does have that point-to-point encrypted technology to help protect that data in flight. We are offering a special offer at the moment. One of the last slides, I'll have our phone number to contact our sales team if you'd like more information about OmniFlex, to where we are offering a free payment device upon signing up with Worldpay. So transitioning to back office and the tool set to help you lower your accounts receivable and to help with those touch points of the revenue cycle management that we discussed. So some of the major ones there are e-invoicing, so electronic invoicing. So whether you're pushing out now emails to pay, and instead of physically mailing out the statements to pay, another form factor in that scenario is just texting to pay, to where your customer would receive that link with the already balance owed to click the link, open it up, make a payment. Or also sending out that electronic invoice to where it has a QR code. You simply would just bring it up like you do today with the QR code, has your balance owed, and you'd make a payment. Recurring payments, we touched on that for the use cases there. Account updater, which is a key functionality once you start to expand card on file usage, which we'll get into here in just a moment. And then checks as well. I know we're talking about credit card payments to help your accounts receivable, but we do have the capability to accept electronic check. So I'm not sure if you're doing that today, but for that kind of generational payments offer, you can set up through Check Commerce, which is a third party that we partner with to offer that experience. All right, so electronic invoicing, as you see there on the left, that would just be a scenario of what the customer would receive for their balance owed to then make payment. You can try to use that QR code if you want to. Just act like you're taking a picture. It'll pop up the link. It's just a test environment, so it won't show any balance owed, but it'll kind of get to the point of what it'll do if you do push this out to your customers to help pay that way. And then the bottom right-hand corner shows an example of the Taco Queen, showing an example of text to pay, to where your patients would receive that link on their phone and then make that payment due to help close the loop on their post-adjudicated balance. Recurring payments. So what we're looking at now is we're in OmniFlex. So when you see there on the left-hand side, if you were to set up recurring payments for the use case of the scenario, like we said, a large bill for the crown, or maybe some braces, you would come in here to recurring payments, and then you'd set up the cadence. So whether it's a monthly payment, every bi-weekly, you name it, there's multiple pull downs on here to set that up and to align with how the customer would pay. You'd have a start date for that payment, the payment amount, obviously card details, and then the number of payments. So if it's a $1,000 bill and you're trying to line it up for the next 10 months, you're plugging in 10 there for that $100 payment. There is an authorization form that gets pushed to the customer to consent to this, since you are charging their card on a monthly basis moving forward. And then this overview right here just gives you a lens of what this looks like. So whether you're trying to pull up a customer's record to kind of manage the recurring payments, this is how you would manage it. If you need to do adjustments, if the customer maybe just wants to pay the remaining balance, this is how you'd navigate the system and what it looks like. So saving cards for future use. So when my scenario I said of how I was, ready to pay my balance due after my dental visit a few weeks ago, this could be a scenario to where they saved my card on file. So possibly for my next visit, if I did owe a balance, they'd ask, Eric, you owe $100 in your balance. Would you like for us to take care of that with your health savings card on file? Hands down, I would have said yes. So this is just a screenshot of what that looks like to help add those cards on file to OmniFlex. Now, when you have all the cards on file in OmniFlex, there's a great functionality with Account Updater. Put this up here. But there's certain scenarios to where your card details might change. I gave that example of the breach with Target and Home Depot. Maybe you were involved where you shopped somewhere and your card was compromised. If you have been involved in those scenarios, you realize that you get a new card in the mail. Just magically, you get a message saying that your card is compromised with this retail location. We're going to send you a new card. You have new card details. But staying with that scenario, say I had my card set up at my dentist for recurring payments. That card's going to decline the next time they go to charge my card for $100 on that recurring payment scenario. With Account Updater, it's reaching out to the card brands. So that bottom point there, Visa and MasterCard, and it's doing it preemptively. So it's realizing whether the card's about to expire, it's pulling in that new expiration information, it's realizing that there's new account information and it's pulling that in. Like having this strategy at your practice will help keep your card numbers and expiration dates current. Lastly, we touched on the ability to accept electronic check. So like we mentioned, this is powered with check commerce. So the card details there, it's similar to making a credit card transaction, putting in the sale amount, the address, and then the check details there, the account and routing number. The only thing different you'll see in the bottom right is needing that a little bit additional information with the driver's license in the state. And then you're making that payment. So instead of taking those to the bank or however you reconcile today with checks, you're able to just at the end of the day, closing the batch, and then it's going to help close that check amount and pull those funds in for your practice. Switching gears just a little bit, outside of the revenue cycle management piece, I thought it'd be good just to take a step back and help understand the payments ecosystem and all the various players that are involved of how everything works. So we all have credit cards in our wallets or purses, so we know how that works. But maybe you don't exactly know how they're issued. Who gets what money in this world of credit card processing? So this is my attempt at kind of explaining some of that. So if you have any questions, fire away in the Q&A, and we'll get into it here in just a little bit. But you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner there, that's the 100% piece of the pie, right? So the largest piece of the pie of the revenue with credit cards, it goes to the issuing bank. So you don't reach out to Visa to ask for a credit card. Typically, we either see credit card offerings where we shop. Maybe when you go to Costco, you see their credit card, or maybe when you fly, you get the Delta offering of their credit card. So those are all issued through your local banks. And those fees are associated with interchange fees. There's over 300 interchange rates and fees for all your different scenarios, whether it's card present, card not present, whether it has rewards associated with it, if it's a business transaction, you name it. There's 300 different ones of those. And all 300 different scenarios of interchange rates and fees flow back to the issuing bank to receive that money. As you see there, Chase, they actually are the largest issuing provider in the US for cards. Last year, they have 93 million credit cards in circulation, which is pretty wild. The second provider is Citibank with 48. So you might start to think, like, where does the card brands come into play with this? Just some touch points there of the card brands, your Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and Discover. They have 485 million cards in circulation. Pretty staggering number to see, with almost $4 trillion in purchasing volume flowing through those card brands. So you notice there on the right to where Visa has about half of that flowing through their network, MasterCard a quarter, and then so on. So they receive about 6% of the revenue involved with this payments ecosystem when it's tied to those card issuing banks. So lastly, the credit card processor or the payment processor, think of them as almost kind of like the connective tissue that links the merchant and the financial institutions to help authorize those transactions and then facilitate the transfer of funds. So Worldpay, we're a direct acquirer. We help facilitate with obviously the transactions and settling the money to the various banks. And doing so, our piece of the pie in this is about 20% of the 100%, to where in your statements, you'll see like the discount rate or transaction fees or monthly fees. That's what we're associated with. On the statement itself, yes, it's 100% piece of the pie of all the rates and fees, but about 80% of that is going to the banks and the card networks. The last touch point I wanted to just communicate on was interchange rates and fees. So depending on how you're accepting the transaction is how the rates and fees work. So whether it's a card present transaction, card not present transaction, or maybe you didn't settle the batch for more than 2 days, when I mentioned those 300 rates and fees of interchange, those rates vary and depend on how the payment is accepted. So for this example of a $240 transaction for a dentist, if it was swiped, $4.42. If it was decided to be key entered or that card on file, it's going up just a little bit by 16%. And if you forgot to batch out the funds within those 48 hours, it's going to downgrade even higher to one of the higher amounts called IRF, which is 30% over what that swipe transaction was. Not that huge on this example, but when you compound it by how many transactions you're doing on a monthly or an annual basis, it could make a good portion to your bill. So as I touched on the promotion, these are the details. So if you'd like to take a screenshot there, feel free. this routes to our sales team to help assist with the special offer there for the free payment device, as well as a $500 Henry Schein merchandise certificate as well for getting set up and up and running and processing with us. On that note, any questions that you had on the revenue cycle management piece or the payments ecosystem?
Thank you so much for that great presentation. As mentioned, at this time, we're going to open up the live Q&A session for the webinar. If anyone has any questions, please type in the box labeled "Have a question" on the right side of the screen.
Do you have a question maybe after the webinar? I do believe there's a way to reach out and we can circle back with you then, if we don't have anything that live comes in.
Yep, definitely. It looks like you may have covered everything for now, but if anyone does have any questions, as mentioned, please feel free to reach out and email us at webinars@henryschein.com, and we will get those answered for you. Thank you, Eric, so much for a wonderful presentation this afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We did record today's webinar, and we will be emailing out the recording sometime in the next week. We would appreciate your feedback via our survey that will pop up on your screen shortly. Thank you all again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars.